Well, there we go. Technical difficulties. You gotta love them. Oh boy. I love these things sometimes. It's just let me triple check everything before we jump back in here. There we go. I think we are good. We are live. There. Sorry about that, folks. That was I love technical difficulties. We just put in a new router and I called the internet company and I told them we're having some issues with the internet. And they're like, oh no, it should be okay. And I said, no, it dropped to like 5 gig or 5 megapixels or whatever. And they're like, no, everything's great. And I'm like, no, it isn't. No, it isn't. Whatever. Anyways, we're up and running. Jeez, I love tech. All right. Where were we? Welcome everybody to Monday Night Nerd. It's gonna be one of those shows. If we drop off again, I've got the stream going on my phone, so I'll see if anything kicks me. Ugh. Thanks for joining. Sorry for the confusion. As I was saying, I'm really excited because not only are you all here, and I greatly appreciate that, I have some really cool news. I am going to be going to a concert next year. We got tickets for a concert, and I'm really excited for this concert, and I bet not many people are, and that's perfectly fine. I am going to see Creed next year, a band that I have loved, and I don't care what anyone says. I've loved Creed since they first came out in 2000. I'm excited to see them. I'm going to see them next year in Toronto. It's going to be such a fun show. I'm stoked to see them. I can't believe I have to wait like 6 months to see them, but it's going to be so fun. Anyways, sorry. Should have mentioned that in the live stream in Instagram. I totally forgot about it. If you're new here, my name is Myers Corp Cosplay. I've been a cosplayer for 10 years. I have been a con goer for 10 years. I've been volunteering for many years, including what we're talking about tonight, and that is Hamilton Comic-Con. It is my local con. I'm super excited to talk about this con because I don't think this con gets as much love as it should. It's actually a really fun con. It is not the size of Fan Expo. It's not any of that, but it is still a fun con. Because when you have these smaller cons, you get to enjoy a little bit more and you have a little more interactivity with the celebrities. You're not just kind of signing things and taking off. So we're going to talk about that and all the celebrity stories. But first, we're going to talk about the news because we've had a big news week. Today, it was announced that Jay Weinberg, the drummer of Slipknot, is no longer in the band. It came as a little bit of a shock, but if you've been a fan of Slipknot, as I am, you've heard over the past couple months, there's been some changes in the lineups because of creative differences. And as they're calling this one, I want to make sure to get it correct. What's the line? That personal reasons is why he has left. Or no, Jordan left because of personal reasons. It's creative reasons why Jay has left. We would like to thank Jay Weinberg for his dedication and passion over the past 10 years. I'm sorry. It just doesn't feel good when a bunch of your lineup is moving around, especially when you have 9 members of a band. It really sucks because Jay is such a big fan of that band. There's a photo of him and his dad meeting Slipknot when they were like first kicking off their domination of the metal scene. And it's a bummer. I'm a really big fan of Jay's drumming even before he became a Slipknot member. And I don't know. There's been, interviews with Corey Taylor recently about that they've only got a few more years. He's only got a few more years left of touring because of his body and breaking down and all that. And yeah, it's just sad to see another member leave because you're almost having the Kiss factor of there's only going to be Corey and Clown left, and then that's everyone else is going to be changed at the end. So it's a bummer. Honestly, the only thing that would make the announcement good is if they said Jay is no longer in the band. We have hired Animal from the Muppets to play drums, because I would love to see that. That is the only thing that would make this better, but I don't think, unfortunately, we're going to get that. I wish Jay the best. It sucks that he's gone. I have no idea who the hell they're going to replace him with because he's an incredible drummer, and so is Joey. So is Joey, but Joey left for his own reasons. Let's jump into a movie review. I saw Five Nights at Freddy's last week. Now, before I give you my review, let me give you a little clarification, a little bit of background. I have not really played the games. I am what you know, what's the term? Chicken shit. That's the word. I don't really like horror games, horror interactive things. It's not for me. Movies, fine. It's on a screen. It's not close to me. Don't care. These guys that'll turn all the lights off, put on the big headphones, and put on VR and all, never gonna happen. So I know the idea. I have played Five Nights at Freddy's. It's just I haven't played a lot of it. I know the concept. I've watched the MatPat videos. I've watched the Markiplier videos. I know what happens. I know most of the backstory. I get the point. This was an interesting movie. I know it's getting slammed by critics, and I don't feel it's necessary. I feel it is a video game movie, 100%. So there's always going to be that little bit of, is it following the game 100%? Can you follow a game that doesn't really have you moving very much? Is that really a good movie? Do we have to invent about a bunch of backstory? Well, this game already has a bunch of backstory, but it still needed to invent a little bit. It was still a fun time. With all of the extra stuff that was added to it, it was still a fun time. It was very easy to understand. I could totally see going in there. If you have no idea what's going on, you get it quick. It makes a lot of sense, as much as Five Nights at Freddy's does. The casting is great. I think obviously there was a little bit of humor to it when it came to the logistics of the world. Fandom Frontier, Dave Thorne, who was on the show, we went together and saw it, and we were cracking up at a couple parts in it where the logic just doesn't add up. But overall, it was a good movie. It's not extremely scary. I think if you have a kid that's played the games, the movie's not going to be much worse than if they played the games. If they can handle that, they can handle the movie. Yeah, I thought the animatronics were incredible, or the suits. That was the main reason I went. Again, I've not played the game, so I don't have a diehard love for the series. I will fully admit there was a time when Five Nights at Freddy's 2 came out where I was really considering building a Golden Freddy cosplay before, the 10,000 other things of Five Nights at Freddy's came out and blew up. But I really was sitting there. I actually had sketched out how to build a Golden Freddy suit because I was contemplating bringing it to Fan Expo and just sitting there in the corner and having people walk by. Didn't end up building it, but I thought it'd be a really cool look. Where was I going with that? I have no idea where I was going with that. I just lost it. I lost exactly where I was going with that. Anyways, I enjoyed the movie. I thought it was a very fun time. Yeah, if you're a fan, I think you'll enjoy it. I think that's kind of what all the reviews are saying is, the critics may not like it because they want, some epic masterpiece, but it's Five Nights at Freddy's. Like, I'm happy that it's a competent video game movie at this point because I grew up in the 90s, and even up until like Assassin's Creed, where you could barely understand these video game movies. I think the world is starting to understand that you can just make a game movie and it kind of works. Super Mario proved it. Now this proves it. So I think we're on the cusp of maybe the video game franchises taking over the theaters. And that sort of segues into the next thing I want to talk about, and that is The Flash. Now, I know we've all heard about The Flash, and we've all seen The Flash, and we understand the problems of The Flash. Nick Cage has come out, and if you've not seen the movie, he does have a cameo in the movie where he is playing Superman. And if you're a Kevin Smith fan, you are well aware of a story that Kevin Smith tells in his live show probably 10 years ago, where he was commissioned by DC to write a Superman script. And the cast was going to be Nicolas Cage. And there's a funny story about how the producer wanted there to be a big giant spider. Well, thank you, Fandom Frontier. We'll jump back into that. It was very interesting to a lot of people of what Superman could be. And I was very interested in the way it looked. And the way that they did it was not the greatest. Basically, the scene is the Flash is running through a whole bunch of universes, and they see the different DC movies properties from the past. So Christopher Reeves is in it, the black and white Superman's in it, and this Nicolas Cage is in it, which isn't an actual property, but it was a cute little Easter egg if you knew what was happening. So Nick Cage has come out in an interview, and Nicolas Cage said, I didn't do any of that. In the interview, he says, first and foremost, he was on set. This was not done by CG. They put a lot of time into building the suit, and I think the director is a terrific director. He's a great guy and a great director, and I loved his 2 It movies. What I was supposed to do was literally just be standing in an alternate dimension, if you will, and witnessing the destruction of the universe. Kal-El was bearing witness to the end of a universe, and you can only imagine with that short amount of time that I had, what that would mean in terms of what I can convey. I have no dialogue to convey. Convey with my eyes the emotion. So that's what I did. I was on set for maybe 3 hours. Now, what that means is there was a scene that Nicolas Cage shot, I'm assuming in the big green screen, of him in the suit staring at what he thought was the destruction of a universe. Well, in the movie, he's fighting a big giant spider and then turns and sees the destruction of a universe. Well, if you see the scene, you realize that he's not really showing a lot of emotion, and now we understand why, because that's not what Nicolas Cage shot. And a lot of people have an opinion on this. Was he duped into doing something he wasn't told he was going to be doing? Is this, technology taking over and making people do things that they didn't expect, and this is an AI issue, and etc. Well, I'm personally, if I was an actor, I would not be too pleased having what I shot changed later. More importantly, I would be more wanting people to say, if you want me to do something different, bring me back and I'll reshoot it. Perfectly fine, perfectly understandable. But whether it was, the billions of issues that went on with the Flash or whatever, they just said, we're just going to modify it in whatever way we need to make it work. Yeah, I have a problem with that personally. If I was Nick Cage, I'd be a little frustrated because you're not taking what I'm doing literally. You're not taking my performance into consideration. You're not letting me convey what I could. You're putting a bad light on me when it's not my fault. So I think if Nick Cage didn't come out with this interview, I think it would have been, looking at Nick Cage in not a different light, because hell, we all understand how bad that movie was. But I think it would definitely put him, he didn't put in a lot. Well, there's a reason why he didn't put in a lot, because he didn't think he was going to be putting in a lot. So, like I said, I would not be too pleased if I was Nick Cage, but whatever. It's still an interesting thing to see that there are now movies out there that can and will and have taken a complete performance that one actor has done and has now modified it in a completely different way. So, interesting. Now let's talk about the big elephant in the room. I need to take a glass of water for this one. The Variety article about Marvel. Variety magazine put out an article, when was it? I want to say last week. Crisis at Marvel. Jonathan Majors' backup plans, the Marvel reshoots, reviving original Avengers, and more issues revealed. Now, basically what this is talking about is we're talking about the Marvel Cinematic Universe and all of the issues that they are having. When it comes to every single property that they've been doing, they've had some problems with She-Hulk. They've had problems with, what was that last one? Secret Invasion. Loki is kind of hit and miss right now. I'm kind of enjoying it personally. I still have to watch episode 4 and 5 drops on Thursday. But they're basically saying there's a lot of things going on with Marvel, and Marvel is not the juggernaut that they used to be. And what can they do to solve what can Marvel do? What can Disney do to solve the Marvel issue? And if you've been on my TikTok today, you know that I posted a video around 12 o'clock giving my opinion on this, and I will give it here because I think it's an appropriate place to do it. Does Marvel have issues when it comes to writing, when it comes to the projects they choose, when it comes to not having a showrunner, etc. 100%. Do I feel like we as fans play into that and have our own issues with Marvel? 100%. And what I mean by that, and I want to make sure to get the term properly, there's a psychology term called sensory specific sapia, I believe it is. I believe that's how you pronounce it. And what that basically is if you're someone who, I'm going to give you an example, you're starving, you haven't eaten in forever, and someone walks up to you and says, I have a pizza. And you take that pizza and you take that first slice. It is the best pizza slice you've ever had in your life. It is the greatest feeling. And then you take that second slice and it is so good. And then you have that third slice and it's good. And then you have that fourth slice. And then you have that fifth slice. And then you have that sixth slice. And by the sixth slice, you realize I'm not enjoying it as much as I did when I first had that first slice. And by the seventh slice, you're like, okay, no more. I can't, no more pizza, no more pizza. That's what this psychology is the dopamine effects that you get from having new and having big. It hits you, and every time you get that dopamine hit, it slowly gets less and less and less, and it becomes normal. Your body normalizes that. I feel like we're having that with Marvel. And why do I say that? Well, because over 15 years ago, we got Iron Man. And this was the first real time. I'm not going to count the X-Men. I'm not going to count Spider-Man. You know what? I will. I'll count Spider-Man. I'll count X-Men. That was the first time we saw the things that we had on a page on a big screen, and they did it properly. And we've had that pretty much consistently for almost 20 years. And after a while, you kind of cover everything in the world of comic books. Now, you can obviously go different directions with it. You can go a rated R direction. You can go a more female direction like they did with Miss Marvel. You can do many different things. However, the core of it is kind of the same. And I feel like us as fans have digested so much of this Marvel content, from movies to shows to they've done audio things on Spotify. We've downloaded so much of this and digested so much of it that we've become numb to it, and we've become so in depth of the trees that we don't appreciate it as much because we keep getting it. So what do we do to fix that? Well, the big thing we do to fix that is we stop making content, Disney, which I think the reports have come out now that Disney has said we're going to slow down production on not just Marvel, but also on Star Wars, because they're having the same issues as well, because you had an original 3 trilogy that was amazing, that everyone remembers fondly. And then you had the prequel trilogy, which a generation finds to be their trilogy. And now you've just had a recent trilogy, but then you've also had 5, 6 shows and animated specials and everything else, that it's so much content we've had now, we're able to pick out the flaws. And also, remember, Disney's a moneymaker. Disney wants to make as much money as possible. And if you've got a fan base out there that is just downloading and digesting everything with that logo on it, they're just going to keep throwing it at you, because that's what business is. So when it comes to things like, let's go into these 4 big things that Variety mentions. The Jonathan Major backup plans. Does Jonathan Majors leaving the Marvel Universe hurt anything or help anything? Honestly, I don't think it helps anybody. In fact, I think it would hurt the Marvel Universe so much more. And I say that not as a hardcore fan like I am, that has digested every single Marvel property, but as a general fan who doesn't live in this universe, the confusion that's going to come out of this and the having to weave threads in different ways to make all this work is going to throw away so many general fans that is going to hurt them more than keeping him. From what I remember reading, all the things that he was accused of have been thrown out. Nothing was charged. Everything was misunderstanding, whatever it was. So, why they're even considering that or why people even bringing that up, I still don't understand. Because, again, it's just going to confuse so many people. The Marvel reshoots. There's been reshoots on almost every Marvel property since the MCU started. Traditionally, from what I've read, the director in charge would go out, shoot all the stuff they want, make their version of the movie, bring it back, give it to Feige, and Kevin Feige would look at it and say, okay, we need this here, we need this here, we need this here, we need this here. That would make it perfect. Go do it. So having all these Marvel reshoots, it's kind of normal for the Marvel Cinematic Universe from what I've read. When it comes to reviving the original Avengers, I think that's not even close to something they should be doing right now. If they are going to do that, they need to take such a break. They would need to let this entire franchise, and franchise, I mean Marvel, die for about 5 years before they do that. Because again, you're going to have so much confusion in the marketplace. You've already got so much fan base behind the original Avengers. There's nobody you're going to hire for those roles that is not going to be compared to the originals and is not going to fail to live up to the originals. End of story. There's no other option. It's going to happen. Save yourself the time. From what I've also read is they've had some issues with the Daredevil series, so that has now been going to be reshot, going to be whatever it is. That is probably the best thing they could do. I think that, I think Kevin Feige sort of fell under that Disney banner of just pump out as much content as we can because the executives and the shareholders love that Marvel bonus at the end of the year. So if they can get a little bit more, they will want that little bit more. That's business, though. I'm as much of a fanboy as I am, as much as I love this property, I get the business side of it. They want to make as much money as they can because that's the business they're in. So having them admit that they're probably going to pull back a little bit on some of the stuff, best thing I could hear. I hope they do it. I think that's all they really need to do. I think if I got to admit, Miss Marvel's coming out on Thursday. I'm not jumping at the theater to see it. I'll probably see it. I don't know when, but I'll probably end up seeing it, but I'm not diving at it. The Echo trailer came out. I'm not jumping for joy about that, and it has nothing to do before anyone comments about it being a female-led movie and show. I don't care about that. I love Miss Marvel. I thought that was a great show. It wasn't made for me, but I still had a fun time with it. But I do admit that I think that their idea of pulling back is their best choice. So hopefully it goes with that. I think Variety put out a good article, but I do think that the ideas that are being thrown out of pulling Jonathan Majors, doing reshoots and all that stuff, I think it's a little bit of, trying to put a Band-Aid on something that needs to be a lot bigger than a Band-Aid. Folks, that is the end of the news. We're going to have a little sponsor here. If you're new, you understand the sponsor every week. The sponsor here on the show every single week is my beautiful, lovely wife. I love you so much, hun. I would not be doing this without you. I would not be here talking about the Marvel Universe. I would not be here talking about Hamilton Comic-Con and all the fun stuff that I do without you. I love you, hun. You will always be my sponsor. Love you. Let's go into the main event. Let's talk about Hamilton Comic-Con, folks. I've been going to Hamilton Comic-Con, like I said, for about 5 years. I went before I started volunteering, but I don't really count it because I don't remember it that much. It didn't really make a big enough impact on me. Hamilton Comic-Con was the first Comic-Con that I volunteered for. I I had been going to Fan Expo for so many years, and if you've never been to Fan Expo Canada, you don't know that it is 2 buildings. It is 4 days worth of going to convention. And honestly, you probably miss things in those 4 days because there's so many things to do at that con. So I wanted to experience these other little cons, but I never, I don't want to pay a day pass or 2-day passes and it just be like, I can run through it in 6-8 hours. Like that just didn't do anything for me. Like I wanted a little more. And I heard about volunteering, and I heard about volunteering off their website. If you ever want to volunteer for one of these cons, go on their website. There's usually an application or a way that you can contact them to become a volunteer. We can always use volunteers. When I first started volunteering, the first day that I was there, actually I was only there for 1 day if I remember correctly. I was asked to work the celebrity stage as security. Somebody's going to rush the stage or something. The last guest canceled, so I had some free time and I was asked, do you want to go work a celebrity line? And I said, what's that? And they said, well, you're going to be working, the celebrity table will be here. You're going to be in front of it, just making sure to give the guests some room, talk to the fans, get their stuff ready, sort of be that last minute person before the guests meet the celebrities. And I said, sure. And ever since then, I've been doing it every single year. And I do it also at Niagara Falls Comic Con because they're the same owners and all my friends do it. It's an absolute blast doing it every single year. And with that, and that close interaction with the celebrities, I get to have a little bit of fun interaction with some of these celebrities. And that gives me some stories. Let's start things off with the person that I'm starting this one first because it is the best, but it's also the saddest because I will never get to do it again. And that is the late, great Jason David Frank. I grew up such a Power Ranger fan. I lived for Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. It was an absolute honor to meet Jason David Frank. That was my childhood hero. And he was there about 4 or 5 years ago. I think it was like the second year I was there, third year I worked Hamilton Comic Con. He was there. And it was like, I cannot stress how excited I was to work with him. And it was everything I wanted and more. This is an individual who, if you've ever worked at Comic-Con, you know that we'll say, this celebrity did everything. He was the best to his fans. And 99% of them are. He was the king. Hands down. Hands down, he was the nicest. He didn't let anyone go away unhappy, including the volunteers, including the staff. He made sure everyone was happy. He was signing shirts. He was taking photos with everybody. Usually if you go and meet a celebrity, they have an autograph price and they have a photo op price. And the photo op price is either a professional photo or you can get a table photo with them, and it's usually an extra $10 on top of an autograph. It's usually the same as an autograph fee plus $10 usually. He gave out so many free photos. So many. For every time sign an autograph, he would then go, you want to take a photo? And they'd say, oh, I don't have the money for it. I didn't say that. Hop in, let's get a photo. So many. He had stickers he was giving out to everybody. He was talking to everybody, having full conversations. And there were people at the back of the line getting very frustrated. Like, I'm waiting forever to meet Jason David Frank. And I said, dude, you are not going to be upset when you get up there. And there was at least 2 or 3 people that when they got up there, they were walking away. And I said, was I right? And they said, you were so right. You were so right. And he made every fan feel like $1 million, including me. Like, he talked to me about Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. He was talking about his MMA career, and he was incredible. And I should have pulled this over earlier, but I forgot to. At the end of the day, he was gifted a ton of stuff. There's a lot of fans that will bring celebrities things. And I will tell you this from experience. If you're going to bring a celebrity a gift, please make sure it can fit into, let's say, a bowling ball size compartment. Because it's not that they don't appreciate it. They appreciate it so much. But these folks have to get on airplanes and need to travel. And if they don't have a spot for this, they can't take it with them. And I've seen it happen in the past where somebody has worked on something so big and badass, and they've handed it to the celebrity, and you can just see it in their eyes of, I would love to take this home, but I can't because I just cannot get it on a plane. And one of those things happened with Jason. Now, give me 1 second. I just got to grab something. This is an example of that. So headphones wrong. So at the end of the weekend, he had gone through and met hundreds, if not thousands, of fans. He was lined up all weekend, and he had a bunch of stuff that he was gifted. And one of the things was this, and he loved this. And I would love to find the person who gifted him this, because he knew what would happen. He couldn't take this on a plane. And I'm telling you, it broke his heart. And he knew what would happen to it. And he knew I was a big fan. And he said, look, if you take this, could you take this? Because I know you're a fan and I know you'll take good care of it. But the only thing I ask is I don't want you to show it to anybody. I don't want you to post online or anything, because he did not want the artist to feel bad that he did not take it home. And what that is a giant painting of all of Jason David Frank's Mighty Morphin Power Rangers in general costumes or suits. And he autographed it to me. And I've been holding on to this since then. And that is the first time, except for the Geeks & Co. show when we were talking about just after Jason David Frank passed away, that is the first time I've shown that online. I've not taken any pictures of it. I've not posted it anywhere. Sadly, because Jason is no longer with us, I don't feel as bad doing it, because I can tell everybody how much it truly meant to him. If someone knows that artist, and I'll pull it up again in case you didn't see it. If someone knows who this artist is from Southern Ontario, please let me know, because I would love to contact him and tell them how much it meant to Jason, because he really felt bad not being able to take that with him. And it sucks. It really sucks that such a great guy is no longer with us because of mental health issues. And, every time I talk about Jason, I always say, please, if you're dealing with mental health struggles, please talk to somebody. Talk to me. Find me on Instagram, Myers Corp Cosplay. Find me on Facebook. Find me on TikTok. Find me here on YouTube. Send me a message. Talk. Please talk to somebody. Please. I will not judge. I have mental health problems. Pretty much everyone I know has mental health issues. Please reach out to somebody and get some help. Please do not end up like that, because I think a whole generation of fans were really affected by that. And I don't want you to affect people like that, because that was a horrible, horrible day for many people, including myself. Now, now that the emotional part is gone, let's get into the frustrating part. At the same convention, Jason David Frank was here, and I was working with Jason. There was a table in between, which we'll talk about after this guest. There was a table next to that guest, so 2 tables over, was Mr. Corey Feldman. Now, I'm going to watch what I say here about Mr. Feldman. Corey Feldman from the Goonies and Friday the 13th and his albums, sort of. Yeah. Corey Feldman's an interesting person. If you Google Corey Feldman singing and his albums, you'll get what I mean. He's an oddball. And I'd heard a lot about Corey Feldman before the con even started. I heard interesting takes people had, and Fandom Frontier is putting "Oh Feldman" in the comments, and I'm not going to explain why. If you know him and you know me, you understand why, but I'm not going to go into his feelings on it. Yeah, it was interesting having him there. I would use the word egotistical to describe Corey Feldman. He showed up late. He showed up with his angels, as he calls them, which were friends of his, girlfriends of his. I don't know what you'd call them, but they were dressed in angel costumes and were just sitting with him on either side of him on their phones. Didn't really give a crap about being there. And Corey wanted everybody to buy his CDs, and nobody wanted to. I have heard from other sources that opinion or that way of behaving has not changed recently. But I don't understand it. I didn't grow up as a Corey Feldman fan. I wasn't a fan of the Goonies. I don't mind him in Friday the 13th, but he ain't my favorite actor. But there are a lot of people who love him, and based on how I've seen him interact with fans and his reputation, I still don't understand why. But yeah, Corey Feldman was an interesting cat, but super busy. Just as busy as Jason David Frank, which again shocked me. So I'm working Jason David Frank's line. Corey Feldman's over here, and there is a small table in the middle. And this is one of the things that, as a celebrity line individual and the people behind the tables who are the handlers, who could be their agents or volunteers like myself, the problem that we run into a lot is the way that the guests are laid out. Sometimes the convention has a hiccup and decides to put odd choices together or just odd layouts. And this was probably the worst. And that was, you didn't see that, Jason David Frank, Corey Feldman, and in the middle was Mr. Ivan Sherry, who is a local Toronto voice actor who has worked on Assassin's Creed, has worked on a bunch of Ubisoft titles, and is also the voice actor for Inspector Gadget. Not the original, one of the newer series, which I believe was around 2018. The problem is you've got a huge line like Jason David Frank, you've got a huge line for Corey Feldman, and they sort of, once they get off to a certain length, they sort of do this. And they sort of crowd around. So nobody could get to Ivan Sherry's table. And I felt so bad for the guy because I'm working Jason, but I'm also working his table as well. And I could tell he's getting frustrated. Because A, he's listed on the program as the voice actor for Inspector Gadget. So any old-time Inspector Gadget fans are running up to him until they realize it's the new Inspector Gadget. So he's getting frustrated because of that. And second, like I said, nobody could see his table because he's just surrounded by Corey Feldman and Jason David Frank's line. And after about, I think the con was a 2-day con. He lasted about an hour into the second day. And he wanted to cuss, he wanted to scream, he wanted to yell. I completely understood why. He didn't flip out. He didn't flip out, but he was very angry, and he definitely wanted to talk to the show promoters. And I felt so bad for him because he's a really nice guy, and he's local Toronto. I don't know if he does any cons anymore. I think that may have been, if not his last con, because I have him on Facebook and I think I have him on Instagram too. And I never see him going to conventions anymore, or at least he doesn't promote it. But that was really, really sad. That was one of the saddest I saw. Was just really bad not bad line management, but just layout of putting an unknown actor and voice actor, which I'm sorry, you are an unknown voice actor, between two huge celebrities was just bad. Let's jump into Darth Vader. So if you watched the past couple episodes, I talked about the recent Hamilton Comic-Con and working with Mr. Hacksaw Jim Duggan, which I will not go over again because you can check the archives for the last Hamilton Comic-Con review where I talk about working with him, which was, again, a delight. But across the street, across the laneway, was Mr. Demetrius Bistrevsky. I believe that's how you pronounce his last name. He is one of the actors who in the suit for the Obi-Wan show. And he is, I believe he's done a couple projects, but he's pretty new to the acting world. And his previous employment was Cirque du Soleil. And he was an absolute hit and a treat to be at a convention. He was doing flips. He was swinging the lightsaber around, showing kids how to do techniques with the lightsaber. He was juggling. He was walking on his hands. He was an honest to God hoot. I loved having him across from me. And Mr. Phantom Frontier, David Thorne, was working with him. He was sitting next to him for the entire weekend. And after the convention was over, I talked to Dave and I said, "How was it?" And he said, "It was a treat." And I believe we talk about that a little bit at the when Dave was on the show a couple weeks ago. He is the guest that I think a lot of us working conventions would love to have, and would love all guests to be like that. And we understand that they can't be, because not everybody used to work for Cirque du Soleil. But just the positive, uplifting, fun time being at a convention. I think I think some celebrities, they get kind of used to it, and it's sort of just like, it's another con, and it's just not, either they're having a bad day or just not, they don't have the enthusiasm. And I think Demetrius showed that young, fresh exuberance to being at a con and shaking everyone's hand and having a lot of fun. So it was a blast having him here, and I hope we have him back to somewhere in the Southern Ontario area, because I didn't really get a chance to talk with him that much because he was really busy at the end of the day. But I would love to sit down and yak with him for a few minutes and get an autograph, because he was amazing. The other Darth Vader that was there, and this is a funny story, Mr. David Prowse, who was the original actor for Darth Vader in the original trilogy. David Prowse was at Hamilton Comic-Con. I believe it was his last appearance at least at a Canadian con. It might have been his last in general. The funny story with him, so he was a very elderly person when he was there, and he had a handler who I believe was either his agent or a family member, and they were taking care of him, and he seemed to be in good spirits for, his age and enjoying it. But it was really funny because I don't know if he intended to be there as long as he was, but if you've been to Hamilton Comic-Con recently, you know that it's at the Warplane Heritage Museum in Mount Hope, Ontario, just south of Hamilton. And the room that they have it in is a big room, and at the back is a big hangar door, because it's basically an airplane hangar. And they've always got it closed, but at the end of the event, they open it up because it's very easy for vendors and stuff to get their stuff out instead of all trying to get through a little corridor. So I remember walking through the con at the end of the day, and usually the volunteers and stuff, we kind of get done early because the celebrities all kind of have to get planes and they take off early. So we kind of have the last hour sort of just bop around and check out the con. So I remember walking through the con, and the con has just ended, and I'm making my way back, and David Prowse is still sitting at his table, but there's no one there. Like, there's no fans there, there's no agent there, and he's just sitting there, and they're slowly opening the hangar door. And I don't know why it hit me as hilarious, but he's just sitting there, and I don't believe he had his photos or anything there, because if he had his photos, I would have really felt bad. But he's sitting there, and as the door's opening, the wind is just whipping past him, and his hair is going everywhere. And I'm looking around like, can someone help this person, please? Like, does he know the con's over? And I think after about 2 minutes, either his handler or his family member came over and helped him out. But just seeing him sitting there like it's over, just just wind whipping by him was really funny to see. I hope no one just left him there, because I would have felt really bad about that. But very sweet from what I've heard. Unfortunately, I don't believe he's with us anymore, but very sweet. Same with Demetrius. Anytime the Star Wars guests come to the con, it always does well. There's always a fan base for them. Let's jump into Mr. Ric Flair. We're at the 46-minute mark. We got a couple stories left. Ric Flair, I've mentioned 100 times. I'm a huge wrestling fan. Working with Ric Flair was amazing. And working with Ric Flair at my first volunteer convention was mind-blowing. When they asked, do you want to work a celebrity line at my first Hamilton Comic-Con, I said yes. And they said, do you want to work Ric Flair's line? And I nearly fell on the floor, passed out. The Nature Boy, like one of, if not the most well-known wrestlers in the world, yes, I would love to work with Ric Flair. And again, an absolute treat. A sweet, sweet guy. Rick has a reputation. I totally understand. Rick is Rick. And back then he was a little better health-wise, so he was a little more engaged and a little more having fun, but still a sweet, sweet guy. In fact, I don't know how I feel about this. I'd love to get some people in the chat. What do you guys think of this? So when I first worked with Ric Flair, he was supposed to do what was the Legends of Wrestling panel. And in the panel, that was all the wrestling guests would go up on stage and they would talk. And they'd tell stories and people ask them questions. Ric Flair was supposed to be a part of that. And when it was time for everybody to get up and go, Rick still had a whole line of people. And Rick said, no, I'm not going to do the Legends panel because I have so many fans here that I don't want them to wait any longer. I'm going to stay here and work with the fans and not do the panel. What do you guys think about that? What do people in the chat feel about that? Because personally, I'm kind of split. I think if you were in line, I think that's amazing, because I can just imagine being that person who's been waiting an hour and a half for that autograph, and Rick go, I got to get up and go do a panel. And the panels usually run another 45 to an hour. So you're now waiting another hour possibly for him to get back. On the other hand, I think he would told amazing stories at that panel. So I don't know. I'm kind of split on if that was a good thing or not. I think it really just depends on which one you wanted to see. Personally, I got to be that close to Ric Flair for a couple hours, and thankfully later on a lot longer. But I don't know. I'm kind of split on that. I'm kind of split of how I feel about that. But again, Ric Flair was amazing. Got up at the end of the show, shook my hand, which I, again, almost passed out because I'm shaking hands with the Nature Boy Ric Flair, the 16-time World Heavyweight Champion. But it was amazing. It was absolutely amazing. Other wrestlers, and this one I wasn't expecting. I wasn't expecting anything negative, but I wasn't expecting this to be as fun as it was. And that was a couple years ago. the Gun Club from AEW, sons of Billy Gunn. They were a hoot. What's Fandom Frontier? Fandom Frontier in chat. It makes sense to me. Panels are free to attend, but these guests wait, pay, sometimes don't get their money's worth. Not mentioning any names, but the one has a bigger impact. 100%. I agree. You know what? I agree with that. I agree with Fandom Frontier in chat. They're great to attend, but the bread and butter is in line waiting for an autograph, and that's where the convention's making money and the guest is making money. So I agree with that. I think that's the best way to put it. The Gun Club and Billy Gunn at Hamilton Comic-Con a couple of years ago. I am not a big AEW fan, but I know of the Gun Club. I know of Billy Gunn. Colton and Austin Gunn were hilarious. They were jumping up on chairs, instigating wrestling fans walking by. Billy's just sitting there, just like, I don't want to talk to you guys. Like, you're just being asses. And it was so fun just to see them just poke fun at everybody, jumping around. Billy Gunn walked over to they have a Harry Potter sorting hat ceremony where kids can go under, they'll answer a couple questions beforehand. Spoilers, this is how it works. They answer a couple questions beforehand, and the person who's doing the voice of the hat says, kind of goes, okay, you must be a Hufflepuff, you must be a Ravenclaw, etc. Or Ravenclaw. Why did I say Ravenclaw? Ravenclaw. And I guess they put Billy under it, and they start asking him the questions right there, and the hat says, "You're a Hufflepuff," and Billy goes, "No, I'm not." And then you can tell the hat sort of takes a second and goes, "Well, maybe I was wrong. Let's ask another question." And then, "Well, maybe you're a Ravenclaw." "Nope." "Well, we can be wrong a couple times." And I look over, I'm like, I didn't know you could say no to what house you got picked. I don't remember that in the movies. But yeah, he was having so much fun with that. I know he was just poking fun at them, and it was pretty humorous to see him just be like, "Nope, not going to be that house." And in the end, it culminated with it was the same weekend or the weekend after was my wife's birthday, and all the volunteers who were friends of mine, they all know my wife, and they're all friends with my wife, so they had brought a card for all of them to sign to give to my wife that evening at dinner. And Colton and Austin Gunn saw the card and signed it saying happy birthday to my wife, which my wife is not a wrestling fan, so my wife didn't care. But I still have that card in my autograph book because that is something that I'm like, I think that's funny. I think that's so cool that they signed it. I wanted to get Billy to sign it too, but I didn't want to be like, "Billy, can you sign a card for my wife?" It was more funny that they did it naturally. But yeah, an absolute hoot to be around. I hope they all come back because yeah, they made me fans of theirs, and now anytime I see AEW on, I'll wait and see if a Gun Club show or a Gun Club episode or Gun Club moment comes on. It was really fun being at AEW in Hamilton, and they came out with part of Bullet Club Gold. And they're being heels, but I just want to be like, "You guys are amazing. I love you," but I need to, boo. It's the fun of wrestling. We got one story left, and I have to say this is one of the coolest things that's ever happened to me. I've had so many fun interactions with celebrities over the years. But this one happened the first night that I volunteered, and it's going to be really hard to top it. After the show was over at Hamilton Comic-Con the first year, we were down at Hamilton Place, or not Hamilton Place, the convention center. And all the celebrities were staying across the street at the local Sheraton. And some of the volunteers who had been obviously volunteering longer than I had, I guess, spoken to a couple of the celebrities and said, "Hey, do you guys want to get together after and get some drinks and etc.?" And I guess they said yes. So I was on my way home, and I got a message from one of the volunteers saying, "Hey, where are you? We're getting together with a couple of the celebrities. Do you want to hang out?" And I said, yeah, 100%. So I turned around and I came back, and sitting with a couple of volunteers was Sam Jones from Flash Gordon and Larry Thomas, the soup Nazi from Seinfeld. Now, I've seen Flash Gordon, not a movie I regularly watch, but I know it and I appreciate it. I especially appreciate it in Ted. That was hilarious. And I'm not a giant Friends fan, but I obviously know the No Soup for You. And we ended up just chit-chatting with them. And, we were kind of just talking about many different things. And one of the things that was brought up was, as the soup Nazi, you hear the line, no soup for you, over and over. You hear it so many times. Does it get annoying? Like, does it get boring signing no soup for you every single time? And Larry Thomas said the line that will stick with me forever. And that was, there are a billion actors out there that work so hard and are known for nothing. I'm internationally known for one word, for one line. I am so grateful for it. And he is, I'm not joking, he is so grateful for that one line. And that made me take a step back and say, man, if anything ever happens, if, this podcast blows up, or, cosplay blows up or whatever, like, be grateful for what you have, because there are hundreds, if not thousands of people doing whatever it is you're doing, whether it's cosplay, whether it's podcasting, whether it's whatever, acting, that are known for nothing, that will try their hardest and will never be known for anything. But you're known for one thing. Be happy with that and enjoy it. Don't get upset that you have to sign the same thing 10,000 times. Sign it and be happy with it. It goes back to a famous line that I heard when I was little from the lead singer of Kiss, Paul Stanley, who said in an interview, people say, you wear the makeup all the time. You wear does it get boring putting it on all the time? He's like, it's like becoming president and then complaining about wearing a tie. It's part of the gig. You wanted it. Shut up and enjoy it. And Larry Thomas just proved that with that. And throughout the night, we were there for a couple hours, and slowly but surely, a couple of the other celebrities, I can't remember who else was there, they kind of went back to their rooms, and the volunteers went home. And I got to end my night sitting at the Sheridan Hotel bar with Larry Thomas, the soup Nazi, on one side, Sam Jones, Flash Gordon on the other side, and we were watching the Dallas Cowboys play football. There is a split second moment where everything froze for me, and I just went, what am I doing? I'm sitting between two of the coolest celebrities that, like, again, they're not world renowned, like, they're not A-list actors, but they're still some of the coolest people. And I'm doing this just because I'm volunteering. Like, they've accepted me not as an equal, but as someone to hang out with. Like, that was insane. I was actually going through college at the time, and I was with my girlfriend, who is now my wife, and we were talking, Sam Jones and I were talking about what I was going to do. And I said, well, I'm going to school for marketing, and I've got a girlfriend who I'm going to propose, and, et cetera, propose at some point. And he said, that's really good to hear. It sounds like you really got a good grasp on things, and it seems like you're good at what you're doing now with the volunteering, et cetera. I said, yeah, I'm really enjoying it. And about 3 or 4 years later, Sam Jones came back to Hamilton Comic-Con, and I went, I got to go up and just say hi. Like, he's not going to remember me. I just want to go up and say hi. And I walked up. I said, "Hey, Sam, how's it going?" He said, "Oh, I'm doing good. I'm doing good." And I said, "You probably don't remember me, but 3 or 4 years ago, we had a moment." I said, "It was me, you, and Larry Thomas sitting at the hotel bar, and we were talking about." And he stopped me and he goes, "You were going to school for marketing, and you were gonna propose to your girlfriend." And I said, "Yes." And he goes, "I remember you." He goes, "What happened?" I said, "I graduated." He goes, "Good." And I said, "She's now my wife." And he grabs me and gives me a big hug. He goes, "That's it." He goes, "Good for you. Good for you." He goes, "I'm glad everything's going well." I said, "Everything's going well." He goes, "That's great to hear." And it's moments like that that when I go to a con and I might not be thrilled with the celebrity lineup, and I might not, I'm this person, I might be working with somebody that I'm like, I'm not a big fan of theirs. So not a big deal. I wasn't a big fan of Sam Jones. I wasn't a big fan of Larry Thomas. But after that night, they made a lifelong fan out of me. And I cannot wait to hopefully work with them again and meet them again, just to say, like, you didn't have to act that way with me. You could have been snobby. You could have just, "Oh, I'm going to go back to my hotel room." But you guys took a moment and you made a moment for me that will last a lifetime. And that's really how I want to end this episode, because I'm really big on things like that. I'm really big on, there are things that you will do in your life that you may not realize how much of an impact it makes on people. And you could say something, you could tell someone how great they are, you could tell someone they did a good piece of art or whatever it is, and that could mean so much more than you have any idea. So when you get those moments, take them, do it, because you don't know how much that person might appreciate it. I think that's a good way to end the episode. Folks, thank you so much for hanging out with me tonight. I apologize for the stream earlier. Technical difficulties are a problem. I'm definitely going to be calling the internet company tomorrow to talk about this. If you could, I'd greatly appreciate it. Throw a like on this video. If you can, subscribe to the channel. I would really appreciate it. It tells YouTube and Facebook and all that stuff that I'm doing a good job, and they should send this to more people. I would greatly appreciate it. Next week, oh, I forgot one last thing. We have a song of the week, folks. Every week we have a song of the week. And you might be thinking it's going to be a Creed song because Mike's going to see Creed. No, 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 no. I heard this song today and I realized how great of a song this is. This is an 80s classic and I love it because I love it. The song is Frankie Goes to Hollywood, Relax. Why do I love this song so much? Because it is the song that I always pull out when people say, well, back in my day, we didn't have song lyrics about sexual activity and stuff like that. BS. If you know the real meaning of this song, you will get a kick out of it, because they had those types of songs back in the 80s as well. They just covered it up a lot better. Anyways, check it out. It's on the playlist. Check it out on YouTube. Songs of the Week from Monday Night Nerd. Frankie Goes to Hollywood, Relax. It's a classic. Everyone loves it. Next week, we're going to be talking about cosplaying during the pandemic. I know so many cosplayers who have boosted their cosplay game, boosted everything because they had that free time during the pandemic. I had that. I want to tell you guys how I did it. And maybe you can use a little bit of that in your own world, whether it's to do with cosplay or just life in general. Folks, it's been fun. I got to get you guys on the way because I got to go take my dog out for a W. Have a great night, folks. I love you. I will hopefully see you next week. Have a safe, happy week, and I'll talk to you soon. See ya. Hey, thanks for watching Monday Night Nerd. If you enjoyed this content, please hit the subscribe button, like this content, and follow on social media for even more nerdy fun. See you soon.